So the aim of the video today is going through the earnings from AMD, and my expectation is quite high. Obviously, the stock price has soared lately. It's often the case going into earnings, especially now when last week we had a lot of great earnings in the tech space. For example, Amazon and Microsoft had amazing earnings, and we did see a lot of capex from both Alphabet, Amazon, and Microsoft, and a lot of other companies. For example, Palantir had also great earnings, meaning that artificial intelligence spending is working, and this is great news for AMD. So they have some tailwind going into the earnings report today. So I hope, as an investor, that they will have great results. Obviously, maybe beating on some important numbers, maybe some new deals, and we might see that the Helios are starting to ship, and we can recognize some income from it, even though it will be even more accelerated income in the second part of the year. So I guess that is what I want to look for. I also want to see if they have any news on new deals and collaborations. So we have seen lately that they have expand their collaboration with South Korea and their infrastructure build out there. We have seen collaborations with Anthropic and some other big names, intense collaboration with OpenAI since before with Meta, and also starting to build out new silicon for Microsoft. And obviously, maybe we'll get some news on the new consoles, PS6 and the Xbox Helios, and see if we have maybe we can get our grip on how much of the consoles margins or income that gets to AMD, and if that is a potential growth driver long term. So I will be happy to dig in right now, and I hope you are too. So this is my reaction on the earnings call as we speak. So let's dive right in and analyze the numbers. So AMD, they report second quarter earnings, and this will be available here on the investor relations website. So let's head over there and let's read it together. Hopefully we have some nice news. All right, Santa Clara. AMD today announced financial results of the second quarter. Revenue $11.5 billion. So that's a beat, I'm quite sure. Gross margin about 54%. That is expected. They are a bit lower than, for example, Nvidia. What AMD wants right now is gaining market share, increasing their revenue long term. Even Lisa Su has stated that this is the case. So well, that's great. We see operating income $2 billion and net income $2.3 billion, and diluted earnings per share was $1.38 per share. So they are increasing the net income a lot. So this is great news for all the investors, I would say. And on a non-GAAP basis, the gross margins was 56%. You can see here, and yeah, this is obviously great. Let's see what they say. We delivered an excellent quarter with a record revenue and profitability, as data center revenue more than doubled year over year, so 100% increase. We enter the second half with strong momentum in the marketplace, with Epic demand accelerating and the Instincts deployment scale, and Helios begins to ramp. So the Helios is basically AMD's rack scale solutions, where they have like their GPUs, CPUs, GPUs all together. It's similar to the Vera Rubin of NVIDIA. So that's compute in a package, so to speak, ready to deploy. It's just NVIDIA and AMD that can deploy the general purpose CPUs, GPUs, combinations like that for the customers. So it's a very high margin product long term, a very competitive product from AMD, and investors has bet on this deployment with 455X accelerators for some time now, and hopefully they will ramp up this big time the second half of the year. And here they are talking about the Epic and the Instinct. That's the CPU and GPU deployments and accelerators inside the Helios. And yeah, more broadly, AI is driving significant expansion in demand for compute across all of our markets. nothing new there, obviously. Um, the revenue increased 50% year over year to a record $11.5 billion. I wonder if is anything from China in there, or if kind of the numbers from China is excluded, because that has been something that some investors has wanted to keep their eyes on. Is the data center business, and at the moment their semi-custom business is not that big in the gaming space because it's the end of the cycle for the Xbox X series and Xbox S series, and also for the PS5 series, meaning that when they ramp the PS6 and Xbox Helios, we will see actually accelerated growth for AMD in that segment. Um, and it's quite interesting that the data center now is 58% of the company's revenue in the quarter. And what's important for AMD long term here is not getting a bad name from the customers, especially in the gaming space, because I think long term, being everywhere, especially keeping your roots in the gaming space, is important. It drives innovation, and I think in terms of YouTube and free marketing, it's very good to keep expanding your footprint in like great gaming GPUs, for example. And I think that might be something that Nvidia has lost lately a bit, like the customer reviews on their pricing and the development of gaming products and GPUs for the everyday people. So hopefully AMD can continue to increase their market share there as they did during 2025. That's something I want to see. Their chief financial officer and treasurer um, talked about this driving stronger overall revenue growth and continued earnings expansion, focusing on the data center. And here we have the nitty and gritty. But just you can see year over year how much they are increasing from $7.7 billion to $11.5 billion. So if you have been an investor long term in AMD, you probably could have seen this coming. Wall Street couldn't see this type of increase. You can just go back to the second quarter 25 and listen to the earnings call, and we had nothing like this going on. But knowing how much revenue Nvidia gets from their deployment and what type of products that were coming up from AMD, you could make a bet as an investor that, well, if they just execute on what they are promising, things will look very, very promising. And that is what has happened now. And therefore, we also see this 50% year over year revenue growth. It will be very interesting to see how this stock is moving off the market now, because this is I analyze this as we speak, so it's no preparation. I'm seeing this with you, and then I'm gonna upload my reaction. I'm very pleased also that we have this increase, 163% in net income. I know that companies like AMD, they can kind of choose how much net income they want to have, because they always have things they can invest in terms of R&D, expansion, etc. So they have to kind of weigh uh, having a great net income to show they are profitability, um, and also weighing that against like investing in growth vectors and such for the company. So seeing that they have increased the net income, this might be um, a sign that they are really increasing that cash flow and their long-term belief in their roadmap, and they are getting more and more lean and efficient in their execution, because the cadence of releasing new products every year, CPUs and GPUs and rack scale solutions, are really starting to scale for AMD, and that is maybe something that they can have an edge on Nvidia long term, because they are smaller, so they can kind of change their SKUs and their deployments faster for a while now, because they don't have that many customers to please as Nvidia has. So hopefully they can stay nimble as long as possible and kind of gain the most important part of the market. Because, for example, in the CPU market, they have gained everything they want for the last like 7-8 years, having the best products, but they still have like I think 35% of the market place. So I do think Intel still deploys more CPUs, but that's just because AMD do not have the capacity to increase more, because they choose the volume they can ship and want to ship, they are choosing how much they want to grow. And hopefully they do the same in the GPUs, and we have a long-term growth vector in front of us, because just going and have like 25% of the high-end accelerator market and CPU market, like maybe 45% of CPU market, then we have hundreds and billions of dollars in revenue for AMD long term. So I'm very glad to see the numbers here adding up. Also have a segment summary and some recent highlights I want to go through before I end this video, and maybe see the market, how this stock moves off the market just closed. So obviously the data center segment revenue was very high, up 107% year over year, $6.7 billion. I think there are some concentration among maybe the customers there, but long term, AMD having the approach they have, like the open source kind of approach, I think they will have more companies, maybe a broader portfolio of companies adding CPUs and GPUs and the solutions from them than some other companies, and that might be tailwind long term for them. So this is something we have heard from the CEO of AMD, Lisa Su, many times now lately, and I've never heard them so confident as they was at their own AI Advance presentation just a couple of weeks back, talking about the long term plan in the market and their products and their collaborations. So it was very interesting to see how confident Lisa Su was in talking up their products, and they seem to have very interesting product lines coming up. The client and gaming segment revenue, it was up 6% year over year, and the client business revenue was up 23% year over year. Strong demand for the Ryzen processors for example, portable PCs. Gaming businesses was down 31% year over year. Okay, so this is the semi-custom revenue I talked about earlier, the PS5 and Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S revenue. And I just heard that Xbox are increasing their prices again on their Xbox X series. So at the moment, this is not very lucrative for either Xbox or PlayStation to sell hardware anymore on the old consoles. They want to bring out new consoles soon. And this also means that the semi-custom revenue for AMD is very low. But when they start to ship PlayStation 6 and Xbox Helios, maybe 2028, we will see a massive increase, and hopefully these products has more CPUs, more GPUs, and more demanding spec, meaning that maybe the part of the revenue for AMD is increased compared to now. We also have the embedded segment. I think a lot of the Xilinx acquisition is going partly to creating innovative product in the data center, but also to the embedded segment revenue of $977 million, up 90% year over year. So it's very good to see some improvement here. I think this is like in the aerospace sector, pre-programmed intelligence, maybe some industrial, military, etc. Some highlights: they launched the AMD Helios rack scale. I talked about that. The most powerful AI server rack. So this is why I'm telling you they are getting very confident, saying this is better than Vera Rubin. Basically, they are saying saying to us that it's the most powerful, whatever that means. Do your own due diligence there, but in terms of like the memory and some part of the data center, they are the best at the moment. Obviously, there are different products that are good for different type of workloads. So Helios delivers leadership inference tokens per dollar. So this is what all ones are talking about at the moment. They want to, if you use Anthropic or ChatGPT or maybe Gemini or other LLMs, Mistral or maybe MAI or something from Microsoft, you want to do search and get your job done if you're an enterprise company, and you don't want to have your AI budget being spent after 3 months. So everyone wants to decrease their spending on AI, and they want predictability in how they can use AI and deploy AI among their employees. And this is what AMD wants to address with the Helios and they want to decrease the tokens per dollar that companies spend, therefore gaining market share against other AI companies, or semiconductor companies like Broadcom or Nvidia. Yeah, we can see here some cloud providers, including Anthropic, Zerascale, Humane. Humane is in Saudi Arabia. Meta, obviously, with Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. Microsoft, OpenAI, Oracle, TensorWave, Vultr, and others. So loads of big customers there. So this is the Instinct MI400 series. That's the accelerators, the big GPU clusters they have. So if you follow or invest in companies like NVIDIA, AMD, etc., you need to understand the difference between a GPU, a CPU, and the naming. So basically, when AMD talks about Instincts, it's the GPUs for data centers, while they talk about Radeon, it's the GPUs for personal computers and gaming, etc. And when they talk about Epic, that's more for the server CPUs. So that's like the brain, sort of, you can say the computer's brain. And CPUs are getting a lot more important now for data centers, because before it was like maybe one CPUs per 8 GPUs, but now it's almost like one CPUs per one GPU. So the CPUs has really increased in value, and we can see that also during the investor days of AMD, where they hiked their total addressable market for the CPUs to, I think, $100 billion or something. It was something insane, or maybe it was $200 billion. At least it was a huge increase, and that's very positive for AMD because they have the x86 CPUs that are very good for AI agents. And yeah, I'm quite pleased that they have the position they have in the CPU market. Rockam, that's their solutions for AI native experience designed to help developers build, deploy, and optimize faster. It's open source, so that's a stance they take against NVIDIA. This is the 2 gigawatt deployments I mentioned on my channel before with Anthropic. I think it's very good both for the innovative part of AMD's solutions, but also money coming in long term. Collaboration with Microsoft. We don't know how big this collaboration is, but it's the Helios rack scale, and if it's working and they deploy it in the Azure cloud, intelligent cloud, long term for Microsoft, that could be a vector of long term growth. And also collaboration with Cerebras to bring the wafer scale engine to improve efficiency. And if Cerebras gets like expanding use of their solutions, obviously we do see potential for AMD here also to gain some cash flow from that collaborations. The earlier AMD Instincts MI3 150P GPUs for token economics is continuing being deployed, and they acquired a memory technology company designed to optimize memory use, expand usable capacity for AI workloads. So that is kind of a smart move in terms of getting efficiency with their memory pooling in how they build their solutions, and long term getting the memory rights and getting efficient use of memory is so important, because a company like AMD has to buy memory chips from companies like Samsung and Xginix, Micron, etc., and it's so expensive for them. So if they can decrease the spending there, they can increase their gross margin and having an edge in the marketplace. So fantastic. This is an interesting announcement. Also, I heard from the investor day, the Cryas AI solution. So this is telling us that AMD are getting into the robotics with a developer platform, also going in open source. NVIDIA is very big in this space, and now AMD wants to accelerate and use their knowledge in this space also, because long term, I think that vector of physical AI will be huge, and obviously Lisa Su and the leader team of AMD see this also. So taking steps there is not any revenue short term, I think, but long term is very important. And yeah, some speed data transfer and test for measurement, video editing, etc. Outlook is always interesting. Third quarter, $13 billion, massive, obviously. I'm not surprised it's this type of numbers, because they are starting to deploy their AMD Helios. And also when AMD have an outlook, they are also quite often lowballing the estimate. So this could be like 14 billion instead. So it's the least they have is 13 billion, is if not something ridiculous happened. So, well, just think long term. Then the next quarter, 15 billions on an annual cadence. We are up to 60 to 70 billion dollars quite soon. If we deploy a price through sales metrics on that and have that like to 20, I think we are up to 1.2 to 1.5 billion dollars in market cap. So for me, seeing the market cap at the moment around 750 to 800 billion dollars, I won't sell my shares anytime soon. Because long term, seeing the revenue growth, the growth of the earnings, the gross margin being very stable and increasing year after year, and seeing the type of deployments and collaborations they have, long term, this is a good call for my portfolio, I would say. But you never know when you're investing, but everything is going quite predictable for the growth of AMD at the moment, and they have a huge demand for their products. So that's that. Thank you so much for tuning into my reaction of AMD's latest earnings call. And if you want more of this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I see you next time.